If you are seeing this video, that means I may or may not be on a hiatus. This was recorded in advance as there is a death in the family. I might be on the hiatus due to overall memorial planning and possible attorney research and hiring, all that stuff due to the death of the family. I thank you for your understanding during this time. Hey guys, Wolfie here. This is a bit of a video log, and this is some tips I found useful for building your own gaming desktop PC. Now, at the time of this recording, again, I filmed this in advance because by the time you guys see this, I might be done with the entire build. So just a couple of tips here and there. This is all the stuff before you go into installing the graphics card, because according to people like I know Coalition Gaming, I think Carrie Holtzman's the other person, they all mention where the graphics card is among the very last things to install into the gaming desktop PC, which I will stand by that decision. And before I go any further, the usual disclaimer: any opinion in this video is my opinion and my opinion only, so do bear with me. Like I said, I'm not done building my own desktop gaming desktop PC, but there are certain things I wanted to really show off, some stuff to keep in mind along the way. Now, part of this is going to be like how I was organizing things, make things a little easier on myself, because I have a day job, and it's one of those things where I don't have a whole lot of time during the day, or even after work to really get into, dedicating the time to do the build in one go. So that's down that. So one of the things to really put into consideration when you go about building your own gaming desktop PC, in my personal opinion, is that it's not a bad idea to do things in phases. Do the build, do one part, one day, then, or for a portion of one day, then you do another part, etc., etc. So the image you see here, yeah, this is mine. And I want to point out certain items, a little later on in this video, where they go, all that good stuff. So this is what I have so far. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to, if you see the other two chrome looking plates by the CPU, I'm going to be swapping what I have intended for that for a liquid cooler. Now you kind of notice my motherboard, it's an Asus Tough Gaming, and the exact type I have is meant for a AMD CPU. I'm going to zoom in here to show you guys the exact CPU I have. You may not be able to tell here real well by the zooming in, but this is the AMD Ryzen 750-800X, which is one of the better CPUs out there in the market. Now, like I said, right now, as you see that, it's again, like I said, this is one of those things where, okay, I'm thinking about going into the air cooler I currently have, but the air cooler I currently have makes things a lot more complicated for some aspects of the build because of the location of my boot drive right over here, which you will see there is a heat sink on it, that sort of thing. And I'll have to look in further bottom right here. You'll notice here, there's another thing right here. It's the 3 lines there. That's where I have a storage drive at. So it's one of those things. It's you have to be mindful, what you have, that sort of thing. So I'm going to be pausing this video here or there, because that way you get to see certain things. Well, actually, no, wait, hold on. Let me try something here real quick. Okay, good. You get to see certain things. So this is the air cooler I currently have, which is where you see the plates for with. So it's one of those things. It's kind of not ideal. So I was doing a mock, installation, and it turns out this is something that's not going to work. Now, I do have a liquid cooler that's probably going to be a lot better off, but something I don't have a picture of, so something I really can't elaborate on too much. So that's on that. So we're going to jump into certain other tips, to help out here. Now, one of your best friends, and I'm going to have to zoom this in completely, and it's underneath a screwdriver. Now, I'm going to be referring to, let me get this down here, and let me blow up the this a little bit. So I'm going to be referring to you'll see like a thing in like a clear container. There's actually a screw kit of sorts. It's good for both desktops and laptops, and the reason why this is really good to have is because if your motherboard or your case gives you a smaller number of standoff like screws, all that stuff that what you need, you're going to have one of these floating around to make up the difference. And I'm glad they have invested in that, because the standoff screws I was given with my chases was the total number was 7. That's not going to be enough. Fortunately, the kits, the screw kit you see here, that gave me more than enough to make up the difference. So let me zoom out of this picture real quick, and let me do this. So that way you guys get to see some of the other tips. So you definitely want to have a screw kit floating around in case some screws you were given for some of the parts are smaller in numbers than what you need. Now, this is what I was referring to, like the boot drive and storage drive. Now, you notice I have the letter B for my boot drive and the letter S for my storage drive. Now, this is really good idea to have, to put labels on certain things, because that way you know where it goes when you get around to installing things. Because me is like, BS, kind of know what the acronym of that is. But in any case, if you have like certain things like a B, it's like, if you have to think of something, that'll be easy for you to remember. And for me, I'm like, okay, because I have a contact at Discord who's been helping me with the PC build thus far. And, it's like, he's been telling me, like what goes where, that sort of thing, the reason why, etc. And for me, I'm like, okay, I kind of took that and I'm like, okay, let me add in my own, tips here and there, to help myself when I get around to really building it. So what I found useful for me was just like, for my boot drive, I label, like the case where that is with the letter B, and for a storage drive, the letter S. Because that way I'm like, okay, I know this is going to be this is going to be my boot drive, and this is going to be my storage drive. So if you label certain things, like certain letters, or something, saying, hey, this is where it's supposed to go, that's even better. Now, I'm going to look into my, okay, so this is another thing I found useful. So, when it comes to stickers like these, it's kind of like meant to put on your chases, where it's like, that's where they know the specs are, like, there. Now, I will recommend to get more than one of certain stickers, where it's like, more than one of this one you see here. This is meant for the CPU. You should have one of these. You should have a sticker for the operating server, alongside a sticker for the graphics card, and maybe if you could really swing it, a sticker indicating the motherboard you have. And the reason why, it's a good idea to have these and put it like in a private spot on the chases is because, what? It's more like, what's in the computer that you're building yourself. And having more than one of these stickers is like, let's just say you lose one or you misplace it, you still can't find it. Having the backups will probably save your tail and a lot of frustration. Now, we're going to go into the RAM, or the random access memory here. Let me check my time. Okay, it looks like it's a little long already, but it's necessary. So you see here, this is the RAM I have for my soon-to-be desktop PC. Now, what this is, let me adjust the camera here so you guys get to see what's exactly going on. Now, what this is the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro. This is the 32 gigabyte, 3200 megahertz, and it's 2 times 16 gigabyte stick. So there's 2 sticks per kit for this kit here, and it's at 16 gigabytes a piece. This is also DD4, before I forget. Now, for those of you who want to use 4 sticks of RAM for your RAM memory, especially if you're planning on doing things like video editing, content creation, or doing something that requires even more RAM and even more hard drive memory, if you're planning on using 4 sticks, you want to have the entire RAM kit to be the exact same. Meaning that if you want to use 64 gigabytes of memory, you want to have 4 16 gigabyte sticks. And the best way to figure out and ideally, and the thing is they all have to match. So how do you go about making sure they all match? So I'm going to do something with the camera here a little bit, because you're going to have to look at that. Now, I'm going to be referring to the CMW line, because that's the number one hint you're going to be needing. The number one, and the reason why it is going to be the number one hint is because you want to make sure it is that exact same line for the 2 pairs of kits you're going to need. If this is only if you're using 4 sticks and not 2. You want to make sure this is the exact same and also the same brand. Because you're going to be screwing the computer up so bad if something's not the same. So with that, like I said, to do a quick recap on the RAM, you want to make sure the coding, the line where it's in this case the CMW line, you want to make sure that's the exact same, and that's especially if you're planning on using 4 6 of that particular RAM. Like I said, this is the one I have, the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro. This is DDR4. 32 gigabytes total memory, with each stick being at 16. I have 4 of these, and if you can get these at the same vendor, that is the best situation. However, if you could find, one at one place, and time passes on, you want to add another set to it, and you have to go through another vendor, that's okay. The most important thing, though, like I said, is that CMW line. You want to make sure that is and everything matches up. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of issues down the line. So let me take a pause here real quick. Let me see here. I got that. Now, another tip here. I kind of referred to this video referred to this photo earlier, but that's because of the screw aspect. Now, you want to actually have an area where it's or at least something where you can actually work on the item, without many distractions, in this case. And when I took this photo, it was a TV stand. However, I no longer have it. I actually threw it out. But I do have something where I could actually work on this, in peace. And fortunately, like I said, I am going to have to replace this cooler with a liquid cooler, because I had to reiterate here, with the motherboard itself, is that unfortunately the air cooler is creating a lot of issues in sense of space. So it's you always want to have both a liquid cooler and an air cooler around should you run into space problems. And then the most important thing with the motherboard, you want to make sure your CPU is compatible with the motherboard. Because it's if you have a motherboard where it's an Intel compatible with the CPU, you want to make sure you have an Intel CPU to work with. And that's the same rule applies with an AMD compatible motherboard. So with that, I think I'm done with this video, because that's the only thing I can really provide at the moment in sense of good tips to follow. And like I said, it's not a bad idea to do the build in steps gradually, because you may want to look at your own schedule in the sense of not just work, but things you do outside of work, so that way you're not overwhelming yourself. But another thing, to keep in mind is to make sure you have some bandages around, because that way if you get cuts, all that stuff, at least you're not damaging certain things along the way. And I'm actually done with this video with Wolvie here, signing off. I will catch you all on the flip side.